Thank you for joining this lesson. We're going to cover scale drawing, bearings. Four towns P, Q, R, and S are such that Q is 160 kilometers from town P on a bearing of 065 degrees. R is 280 kilometers on a bearing of 152 from Q. Then S is due west of R on a bearing of 150 degrees from P. Using a scale of 1 centimeter to represent 4 kilometers, show the relative positions of P, Q, R, and S. So we're going to begin. We are told that Q is 160 from town P on a bearing of 065. So this means we're going to begin with locating P so that now we can see where Q is. So we start with locating a relative position of P. Let's say P is somewhere here, whereby I'm going to draw a compass. Yes, a north like that. So let's say this is P. Now we are told that from P to Q, or rather Q is 160 from where we are, which is P, on a bearing of 65 degrees. So I'm going to measure 65. When the angle is 065, it means this is an angle of 65 degrees strictly from the north and in the clockwise direction. Therefore, I'm going to measure 65 degrees from the north in the clockwise direction. Therefore, 65 degrees is going to be here. Then now I love to produce this line now. Through that dot to P, that will be an angle of 65. And again, now we have a distance of 160. The scale is 1 centimeter to represent 40 kilometers. So you divide this distance with 40 and you realize instead of 160 kilometers, we'll just need 4 centimeters. We just need 4 centimeters. So using a compass, I stand at 0 centimeters. Then I measure the 4 centimeters, like that, 4 centimeters. So standing at P, I make an arc that is 4 centimeters. This is 4 centimeters. Yeah, 4 centimeters. Then now, at that arc, because I have measured 65 degrees, I will need to measure another angle of 65 on the lower side so that I raise a very good compass at this particular point now. So I will need to stand at this point. At this point, I measure 65, which finds me here. So an angle of 65, that's how I measure it. So that now I join it with this arc, 65 degrees. Through that particular arc, I raise another compass. This is another angle of 65. That means this compass and these ones are parallel to one another and very accurate. We are also told that R is 280 kilometers on a bearing of 152 from Q. Remember this was P, now this is Q. So from Q now, we will measure a bearing of 152. 152. 152. So this is 150, 51, 52. That is the point. So 152. That means we've left an acute angle of 28. So let me first produce. Let me produce 152 degrees. So this is an angle of 152. This means I've left an angle of 28 degrees at this point. 28 degrees. So the first thing is to measure this distance. If 280 kilometers, each kilometer is represented by, or 1 centimeter represents 40 kilometers, then 280 of them will be represented by only 7. Therefore, I'll measure 7 centimeters. Then standing at Q, I'll locate R. I'll be able to locate R. Therefore, let me measure that distance. 7 centimeters. This is accurately 7 centimeters. Then I transfer now this distance to the paper. This is 7 centimeters. This means now, if I left an angle of 28 degrees here, if I measure another 28 degrees at this point, another 28 degrees at this point, I'll be able to raise a very good compass. Following that 28, I'll be able to raise a very good north. So I'll join that dot to this arc. Yes. So this is another perfect compass at this point. Because I had left 28, I've transferred an acute angle of 28 at that point, and that gives me a very good compass at R. So the last is S, and S is due west of R and a bearing of 155 from P. Therefore, I will join those two conditions. Due west of R. So while at R, I just move to the west, and to the west is to the left. So I will just elongate this, this line like that. Then to move to the west, it means I will just construct a perpendicular at this point. So I make an arc, then I make another arc, then I enlarge the radius a little bit, then I make arcs and I cut the arcs. And now I produce this line, which is now to the west. So this is now my west. That is to the west. Again, 155 degrees from P. So at P, I will just measure 155 degrees. So at this point, I will measure 155 degrees. So this is 150, this is 155. 155, that is the dot. So now I will join P to that dot, so that this gives 155 degrees. Something we should know is that for me to measure 155 here, then I must have left an angle of 25 at this point. This means for me to get a compass at S, I should measure another 25 at this point. So an acute angle of 25 measured at this point will give me a very good north. So I'll just measure at 25, an angle of 25 at this point. So that is what 25 is. Then I just produce a line. I join this arc or this intersection to this arc. This is our S. P, Q, R, and S. Those are the relative positions. We can now do some questions from the same diagram. Find the bearing of S from Q. S from Q, this needs a connection. We just need to connect S to Q. Just connect S to Q. Yes, like that. S to Q. Then the bearing we want is of S from Q. Therefore, at Q, we turn until we meet S, the line taking us to S. So I'm going to measure, because this is already 180 from north. This is already 180. So I'll just need to measure the extra acute angle. The extra acute angle. And this acute angle is equal to, we are at 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm getting 13 degrees. 13 degrees. So 13 degrees, when we add the 13 to 180, we'll be getting 193. So the angle is 193. This is true bearing, or the same can be expressed as, because we have measured from the south 13 degrees and towards the west, then this can be called the compass bearing. So this is the true bearing, this is the compass bearing. Again, we are needed to measure the bearing of P from R. So I join P and R. P and R, like that. Then we want the bearing of P from R. So P from R, we need to measure all these angles, the turning we make from R until we meet the line taking us to P. So the whole of that angle, and I'll start by saying this is 180, this is 90, so we have 270. I'll just measure the small angle here. And I add it to 270. So this is the angle I will measure. And that angle is going to be 31. Therefore, 31 plus 270 gives us 301. So the angle is going to be 301 degrees. Or simply, if we've measured an acute angle of 31 here, then it means this is an angle from north, from the north towards west, when we take 90 and we subtract that one, I'm getting 59. So this is an angle of 59 from north through an angle of 59 degrees towards west. So this is the compass bearing. The compass bearing. This one is the true bearing. The true bearing. So that is how we measure bearings. We have another question on distances. Find the distance, PS. So ours is to measure PS from P to S. P to S, that is the distance. We transfer it to our scale here, and it gives us exactly 5 centimeters. So I will take 5 centimeters times 40, because each centimeter represents 40 kilometers, and I'll get 200 kilometers. Again, the distance RS. So from R to S, this is the distance. The distance RS. We also transfer it to the scale. This is giving us 4.7 centimeters. So 4.7 centimeters, and each centimeter is representing 40 kilometers. So I'll have 4.7 multiplied by 40. This gives us 188 kilometers. So that is how we go about the scale drawing. Thank you for following. Subscribe and share.